thank you for being here and being through a great series of talks and staying for the last talk, which is mine. So dump the term success and failure. Normally, I would pick a more diplomatic framing for this talk, but this is a talk with a lot of tough love in it. So I'm going with that because I really do feel strongly about this. I'm Rob Ricigliano, as Peter said. I helped co-found a program called the Master of Sustainable Peace Building at the University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee. My job is as the systems and complexity coach for an organization called the Omidjar Group. Now you may be wondering, so I never knew there was a systems and complexity coach. So there is at least one. And two, what is the Omidjar Group? So I want to talk a little bit about the Omidjar Group because it really does feed into the content of this talk. The Omidjar Group is really a family of organizations that wrestle with some of the most important but intractable problems around the world, from strengthening US democracy to helping children recover faster from cancer to peace building to curtailing human trafficking. And the Omidjar Group represents the philanthropic interests and activity of Pierre and Pam Omidjar. Now, Pierre Omidjar is a disruptive entrepreneur whom you may know from one of his small projects called eBay, which in a relatively short period of time changed how we buy and sell goods in the world. So we took that same kind of approach, he and Pam took that same kind of disruptive entrepreneurial approach to the world of social change. And they have given a lot of resources. They did a look back a few years ago at the first decade of their philanthropy. And over the course of that time, they gave away $1 billion in philanthropic assets to a range of organizations and initiatives. They did this evaluation. They really uncovered, they did a lot of really good stuff. They accomplished a lot of really good things, helped a lot of people. But they basically are asking this question. They were kind of felt wanting from that, and it didn't meet the full level, as they said, of their aspiration. And they wanted to know, how do you go from good enough to sustainable social change at scale? How do we go to making big movements in whole societies on very tough issues like poverty and peace and so on? So I got involved with them because I think we share the assumption or the belief that systems and complexity are a key to making that transition. So I came to them and I worked with lots of their organizations and have tried lots of things, and some succeeded and some didn't. The single biggest modest proposal I can now make to people in the Omidjar organizations is this: to be more successful, you need to dump the word success. And I know that sounds like a contradiction, but it's more than just a semantic difference as well. So the reason I say this is because, first, success and failure thinking are nonsensical in the context of complex peace building contexts and environments. So why do I say that? I want to borrow a term coined by Glenda Ouyang, who we heard from earlier, who says that complex systems are infinite games, meaning they don't have a before and an after. They're an always, right? So yes, Afghanistan has kind of waxed and waned in terms of who was in charge and leadership, but the social unit that occupied Afghanistan has been there for millennia and will be there for millennia. They don't stop, right? They are ongoing. If you're playing an infinite game, at what point do you win? At what point do you lose? At what point do you succeed or fail? It really is just a totally inappropriate sort of way of thinking about that. If basketball games went on forever, right, at some point, like, you don't win or lose. It just keeps going, right? So it's just a misframing. And as I said, it's not just a semantic issue. Because the second real big reason why we need to dump success and failure is that success-failure thinking is self-defeating for peace builders. And basically what it does is it incents us to do all the wrong things in complex contexts. So in order to plan for success and avoid failure, what we want to do is maximize our ability to control the situation and predict outcomes. So we set these preset objectives, and then we fund people who can convince us they have the best plan to get from X to Y to Z, right? So we also end up being very non-holistic and very siloed in how we work. Because if you want to get from X to Y, you hire an expert in Y. So if we think that early childhood development is the key to peace in Afghanistan, we hire people who are experts in early childhood development. Now, we sort of look past the fact that they're also dealing with a security issue and a human rights issue and a social trauma issue and all these other issues that affect whether we actually make an impact on early childhood learning and whether early childhood learning leads to a more peaceful Afghanistan, right? But we choose not to think about that stuff. So we get very inflexible and we develop these time frames that are wholly inappropriate. You know, if you get a grant program that might go on for 2 years, you're lucky, right? But again, when you think about the infinite game, that's just is totally overmatched. So in short, what we try to do is search for simplicity on the wrong side of complexity. So in order not to grapple with that complexity, we put on the blinders and we focus on less and less. But as Oliver Wendell Holmes says here, what's really important is actually dealing with the complexity so that we find simplicity on the other side of complexity, or at least clarity on the other side of complexity. Success-failure thinking keeps us from doing that. Because if you want to succeed and you want to increase your odds of succeeding, don't bother me with complexity, right? Just tell me what I can do something about. Now, it's not enough just to redefine the terms. So I've heard a lot of people talk about this, hey, you know, failure's not so bad. Well, I support that. I think that's true. Failure is not so bad. And success is not as good as we make it out to be. But really, the fix is in. And our brain chemistry kind of gets in the way here. So at best, what we can do is make failure like broccoli. Right? Broccoli is good for you. I love broccoli. It's a great source of vitamin B. And success, in contrast, is like chocolate. And chocolate causes your brain to release the same chemical that it does during sex, the reward chemical of dopamine. So if you had to choose, all things being equal, it's the broccoli, it's the chocolate, right? So we can't get away from our addiction to success and the reward that we get, both neurologically as well as socially. So that's why I'm saying we have to dump the terms in kind of no uncertain words here. But it isn't the only answer. So there is an alternative. And what I would say is we really have to focus on what drives our effectiveness in complex environments. If we want to succeed in these complex environments, what drives success in those environments? So if you look at the routine environment, sort of more traditional settings where we can actually fix stuff, we can intervene directly. If they need fresh water, we can build a well, and building the well actually solves the fresh water problem, right? If that's our model, if that's our environment, most of our success is driven by what's in this black bar there, your ability to deliver direct benefits to the intended beneficiaries. So did the village get access to the fresh water? Did we build schools? Did we train nurses, right? Whatever it is that we were trying to do, we measure by whether we delivered that. Of course, we need to learn and adapt because things are not always quite the way we predicted they would be. We make some marginal tweaks here and there. And also, we have to worry about, are we using good practice? You know, are we using the right technology, and are we training people at the right types of practices, and so on. Now, in the complex environment, though, it changes quite radically. So this is really more of what drives your success, your effectiveness in complex environments. So both the integrity of your approach, are we following a good systems practice? And we have learned a lot about how to engage successfully with systems and with underlying patterns and simple rules, etc. How well do we learn and adapt? If you can have a pretty good idea of a system and how to engage it, you are at best 80% sure. If you're more than 80% sure you got it right, you're delusional. You can't know more than that. And usually it's a lot less. So we actually have to learn our way into being more effective. And that's all about being nimble and learning and adapting. Most importantly, most of your success is affecting these underlying patterns and social dynamics that cause the situation to be, that are the multi-causal forces that produce a level of poverty or violence or whatever the issue that you care about is. We have to affect those underlying dynamics if we're going to make a sustainable change in the thing we care about. And of course, we want to do no harm. We want to help people along the way, so it's not unimportant that we're delivering direct benefits. Accountability in this case does not go out the window either. People don't want to dump success and failure because they think we'll lose accountability. You don't. You're just accountable to a different set of standards keyed off of those sources of effectiveness. Do we follow good systems practice? Do we learn and adapt effectively? Both our understanding of the system, the context, and how to engage it. Are we altering fundamental dynamics? And are we delivering benefits to the people in the short term? So what I want to leave you with is an alternative to success and failure. Basically this idea of healthy engagement. Over time, how well are we working with a system to improve it? Easy, right? Done. Get rid of success and failure. Think about health of your engagement over time. And so thank you very much. And I want to wish that all of your engagements are healthy. Thank you.